As Michael mentioned, we know each other already for 6 or 7-ish years. I've been to Vienna, I guess I visited Vienna 4 or 5 times a year, before Corona even more, and after Corona also. I've been to Angular Vienna already so many times, and what I can definitely tell, the community is amazing. I love to be in Vienna. I'm from Germany. Obviously, you maybe can hear it at my accent, so I'm sorry for that. But I love everything about Vienna. I love the accent. I love even the beer here in Vienna as well. It's just amazing to be here. And I know how hard it is and how much effort you have to do to actually grow a community. I'm organizing also an Angular conference in Germany, basically, NgDE, next year, October, if you want to come, whatnot. So it's a really lot of effort. So please give it up maybe later and talk to the organizers over here and just say thank you. Because it's such a huge thing to organize a conference or to organize these kind of events and keep the community steady, basically. But today, I'd like to talk a little bit about security, as mentioned, and especially about how you can protect your tokens in your front end. And maybe I will tell you, you can't. Please go to the backend and keep your tokens to the backend, but we will come to that. So first, maybe a short recap. What is token-based authentication? I mean, we have an Angular application. We have an API we want to fetch data from, apparently. And the API is telling us, hey, you must provide an access token. Otherwise, I don't know if you have the privileges to get the data. OK, so there's an identity provider coming into the place. This could be Auth0. I worked for Auth0 a couple of times. So an identity provider, it can also be Google Identity, AWS Identity. You choose it. I use Keycloak for my live demo, so it doesn't matter. And this identity provider I get redirected to. I put in my credentials, hopefully also a passkey in the meantime, and I get my token back. This could be most probably the access token I want to have, but of course it could be also the ID token and additionally refresh token, but we'll come to that. And then I need to store this token in the front-end application, and there is the really tricky part. I need to store it in the front-end application, since every single time when I do a fetch request to the API with our beloved HTTP client, which Angular provides this great interceptors. I can just intercept all the outbounding HTTP requests and inserting a BIRA token, basically. And then the API is telling me perfectly, you have the privileges, you shall pass or you don't pass, but then it's depending on your privileges. So let's take a look how we can steal this token out of our front-end application. For that, I have a beautiful, beautiful application. It's called Kittygram. It's like Instagram, but it just allows you to upload cat pictures. That's why it's called Kittygram. So in order to basically see the cats, you need to log in. So you will be redirected to, I'm using here Keycloak, but it doesn't matter right now. So I put in my username. It's called CodeKitty, obviously. And my password, I hopefully don't mistype it. It's just password123, all good. So now I'm able to see the beautiful cats over here. And apparently all are uploaded by me. I have really, really a lot of cats. And now I'm trying to find some XSS attack, because an XSS attack, cross-site scripting, basically provides me a huge, huge window to actually be able to steal your token. And what do you think is the best thing to try out if there's an XSS attack on this website? Is there anything I might can put in JavaScript code to try out? The global search. It's basically a search. I can search for any kind of cat name. It's called Mauzi. Mauzi is actually also a Pokemon, if you know Pokemon maybe a little bit. But anyways, so what I can maybe enter here as well is a super iframe. Oh God, we love iframes in security. Iframes are the best. Of course, we always think about inserting a script tag when we want to actually place an XSS attack. And everyone leaves SVGs and iframes sometimes out, but hell yes, we can also execute JavaScript with iframes, as we can see here. So what I'm basically just doing is trying out if it's vulnerable to an XSS attack. So yes, I do just an alert, and bam, oh yeah, we have found a vulnerability. Obviously, otherwise the demo wouldn't work, so there must be an XSS vulnerability. Of course, you could tell me now, yeah, but Martina, you now found an XSS attack in your own website. How can this be exposed in my website? Yes, but it's really cool. Here, you can't see it so much, but here in the query parameter is also what I typed into the search field over here. I guess I must stand here because the camera is not following me. I'm sorry. I'm a huge walk-arounder when I'm doing a talk. I'm sorry. So I can just basically copy this whole URL, send it to you, and of course, you trust me. Why shouldn't you trust me? Come on. So you click on this link, and then I have this XOR tag on your machine. Apparently, you might be logged in as well, so all is good. Right now, I don't have your token, so let us enhance this a little bit more. For that, what I will do is basically inserting another thing over here. And since it's really long, I just have it prepared over here. I hope, can everyone see this thing over here? Yes, perfectly. So what I'm doing here, I'm having my query. I just type into meow in this query, so I don't care actually. But what I'm also doing is inserting an SVG, which will not be displayed. I don't want you to see the SVG. I load, basically, as soon as the SVG is loaded, I will execute some JavaScript code. I create a script tag. Inside the source tag of the script tag, I will fetch an evil.js file, and then I will just append this script tag basically into my document. What does this evil.js file do? Well, nothing really special. I have a localhost 3000 web server prepared, and as soon as the script gets loaded, it executes this function basically, and this function sends a post request with everything that is stored inside the local storage. I mean, apparently what is inside your local storage, in your local storage, are all these beautiful, beautiful tokens over here. We have the access token. I'll make this a little bit bigger maybe. I have an access token, an ID token, and the refresh token. So let's try that out. I need to run my server over here. npm start. This is my localhost 3000 server, so if everything now is working as expected, we should get the token on my web server. So let's do that. I prepared this query already over here. Let's shortly go to the network tab. We see it, the evil.js file get fetched because I inserted the SVG on load. And what I have here are beautiful tokens. I shortened them up a little bit because it's like, woo, it's really, really big. So I shortened them up a little bit. I have your tokens. And maybe the access token has now, maybe has a lifespan of 2 or 3 years. And now I can do whatever I want with you to pretend to be you. Yes, so of course you might telling me, yeah, Martina, but is cross-site scripting still a thing of single-page application? And now I must say, Angular is by far the best front-end framework when it comes to security features. Angular provides us injection token for inserting nonces. Maybe you heard already for content security policy. If not, go check out the content security policy header. You can directly tell what is allowed to be executed in a browser or what not. Angular has a built-in trusted type, basically. Trusted types is another mechanism that's bounded to content security policy. And Angular has a built-in CSRF attack prevention mechanism. No other front-end framework has that. Angular is by far the best when it comes to built-in security features. But nevertheless, I was still able, in an Angular app, to basically place this attack. Why? I injected a DOM sanitizer and disabled the sanitization. Yes, no one would ever does that, hopefully, but maybe, maybe not, I don't know. Maybe you do that because it feels convenient. Maybe, and this is really scary, and I'm sorry, Alex, please don't listen to that, but we have persons in Germany running around the conferences and telling, please use inner HTML, please use document.write in order to have some performance tips for Angular apps. So don't use the Angular API. Yeah, I'm so sorry to say that. I'm really sorry to say that. So don't use, but yeah, I mean, you're already working on removing Zone.js, so it's a good thing, basically, in order to perform it. So that happens, and if we do something like that, we don't have the sanitization, we don't have the zero trust mechanism of Angular, so please use the Angular API. But unfortunately, there was a stat, I don't have it right now, but NPM always released stats about front-end apps, and it was said that over 90% of front-end applications are actually code that's loaded from NPM. And who is reading every line of code in an NPM package? Don't. Of course, but we have even some security static analyzing tools like SonarQube or SNCC or whatnot. So there are tools that can do that for you, and I really beg you to use them, maybe even at least SonarQube. But otherwise, we don't know what the NPM authors are doing, right? And well, we have some great other stats. Hacker Noon is a great company. They always release some stats regarding the most common vulnerabilities that has been found. Seems like top 10 vulnerabilities surfaced by bug bounty programs is XSS. Oh, surprise. Top 10 vulnerabilities surfaced by pen testers is XSS on the second place. Oh, well, oh, that's scary. So yes, apparently even we have all these things. People not using the Angular API, and that makes me so mad, and that makes me really mad. But people are doing that, and that's why XSS is still a thing. So the point I want to make here is that we don't control all the code. We need to have a good XSS prevention, but it's hard to prevent ourselves 100% from XSS, and I need to tell you that's impossible. There's always a thing because browsers need to support so many backwards features, you know, HTML and all these things. The browser also always wants to be smart. I mean, Google Chrome is the best thing, of course, ever, apparently. But the browsers always do be smart and whatnot, and we can't control the thing. So it's always an open vulnerability for XSS. So I would like to show you today how we can really protect our tokens from the front end. I'd like to demonstrate, I mean, I have a lot of live demos, what could possibly go wrong, how I can steal basically the token, even though you protect it so much. But first, a few words about me. I don't want to talk about too much about myself. The token are more important. But yeah, I'm also a Google developer expert in Angular. I'm an OWASP member. OWASP, who knows OWASP? Open World Application Security Project, perfect. OWASP Top 10, I always like to refer to them. Right now, I'm working actually as an application security engineer for a company, for the University of Oslo, basically. Of course, they're having Angular apps, and I'm helping them with the security, basically. As mentioned, I'm also doing an Angular conference in Germany that happens most probably next year in October in Germany, in Berlin again. But enough about me. Let's talk about how to secure tokens in our front-end app. I talked about this lifespan thingy thing, and I talked about, yeah, the access token might have a lifespan of 5 years, and now I can do everything what I want. Yes, of course, we're not doing that. In all the JWTs, there is an expiration date, and we set it to most probably 3 to 5 minutes. That's perfect. If you set it to 3 to 5 minutes, we need to log in all 3 to 5 minutes again, actually. But yeah, what we have there is the refresh token. Refresh token is a cool thing. So basically, with the refresh token, I can get silently behind the scenes a new access token when the access token expires. That's perfect. But the refresh token I also got here. So I don't care if the access token has just a lifespan of 3 minutes. I have just the refresh token, and I can get an access token whenever I want. Yes, but the identity providers, they're really smart. They're putting something on top, which is called refresh token rotation, basically. Refresh token rotation means when I try to get another access token with the refresh token, I get the access token, but I also get another refresh token, a new one, which is really great. And this continues and whatnot. Okay, but Martina, when I get a refresh token, here this one, for instance, like I'm now a hacker and I somehow steal the refresh token, and now the hacker gets the refresh token and the access token, right? Yes, this is really cool, but the really cool thing about refresh token rotation is that when the application now tries to obtain another access token with this refresh token too, the identity provider says, oh shit, oh no, there's something really screwed up. There was already a token taken by the refresh token too, so I will revoke all the refresh tokens basically. And that's a cool thing. Access tokens are going to our API, so it's hard to revoke access tokens. But since the refresh tokens are controlled by the identity provider, they can actually be revoked anytime the identity provider keeps a state of that. Let's see how we can bypass this, right? This refresh token rotation. For that, let me shortly make some adjustments. It's not really necessary that you get the code, basically. But what I have now here in my application, we actually fetch now every single time there's the first access token, basically, I guess, all 5 seconds. And you see it, hopefully, now every single time the refresh token basically changes over here. I get a new access token and I get a new refresh token. Yeah, that's so easy to bypass. Because you know what I'm doing now? I'm not calling this get data once. I'm getting the token also every 3 seconds. So if we refresh that we loading the script again, then what we will see is basically that I also get every 3 seconds, I guess it was, I get the access token and the refresh token. And I get like kind of a heartbeat. As long as I get this access and refresh tokens, I know the application is up and running. What happens when now I'm not interested in kitties anymore, I close the application. So now I didn't do that in a live demo, but what I could do now is setting a timeout. Like for 10 seconds, I didn't receive access and refresh token again in the server. So seems like the app is not up and running anymore. So now I can use the last send refresh token to get my own tokens. And then I do this ping pong with the identity provider. So refresh token mutation is nice, but I can work around this. I can definitely, with a heartbeat and whatnot, work around this mechanism as well, basically. So, okay, this doesn't 100% really work out great. Of course, you're telling me, but Martina, no one is using the local storage. I'm not dumb. I know that I shouldn't store the tokens in the local storage. That's so 2020. So the identity provider started to do the heck of a work protecting the tokens in the front end. Like Auth0, for example, I worked there, so I know that really well what they're doing. They're inserting an iframe, and inside the iframe, they're doing this code authorization flow again and again. And since the same origin policy kicks in, I cannot fetch the tokens or can get access to the tokens inside this iframe. This is so great, it's so awesome and whatnot. But you know what? I don't need your token, I just get my own token. I don't need to really get your token. And for that, I need to shortly change the Angular, change not the Angular project, but the branch to get the other demo I have prepared, silent token. Yeah, all good. I'm at silent token, perfect. So let's do again an npm start. So what I'm basically doing, I mean, let's shortly go again to, be logged in. Okay, perfect. So what I'm doing now, it sounds crazy. Don't look at this too much, but what I'm basically doing is, the most important part over here is that I don't find it. Here is it. In this evil.js now, I load inside my Angular app. I create an iframe. We love iframes. Iframes are the best thing. Have you heard that in content security policy, you can just forbid all iframes, and you should do that, just as a side note. We don't like iframes, of course, it's sarcastically. Not then someone quotes me later, oh yeah, she loves iframes. So I do an iframe. Inside this iframe, I run my own OAuth flow. So I observed how exactly the origin is talking to the identity provider, and we don't need to go to the authorization code with Pixie so much. It doesn't matter, but basically all I'm doing is I'm preparing the whole URL to key cloak. Basically, it's running on 8089 and inserting another iframe, and then in the end, when this redirection thingy things happen with the authorization code flow, I call the token endpoint inside my iframe, and when I get the token, I send it again to my localhost 3000. So all I'm doing is basically actually the same what Auth0 is doing. I just create an iframe in your website, which is running the authorization code flow. And since it's basically in your origin, the identity provider would say, yes, another session to this origin, let's start it. Let's give a token because it's this origin I know, and everything is perfect and everything is fine. Okay, let's do that as well. Here is it already. If I hopefully didn't screw anything up, with this demo, we should see after a couple of seconds, hopefully, yes, oh, phew. It's almost like in the last night I did a mistake, so I need to prepare this again. But we have a token, and it's my own private token. No one ever would recognize that I stole a token and it doesn't matter if this is refresh token rotation or whatnot. This is my own authorization code flow I just run with an identity provider in my personal iframe. I don't care about your tokens. You can protect your tokens wherever you want. I do my own token thingy thing with, I do my own communication channel with the identity provider, which is really scary. Okay, so you might tell me, yeah, but we have service workers, right? Service workers are great. I can register a service worker, and the service worker can observe all outbounding requests, basically, and work as an interceptor and canceling those requests I don't want to basically have, like create a filter. I'm not a huge fan of service workers in the first place. But we can just register a service worker. And then I say, yes, I unregister your service workers. All the super awesome fancy service workers you placed, I just unregister. And then you're telling me, yeah, but Martina, the service workers are marked for unregistering, but they're not unregistered immediately. So you can't place the attack immediately right now because you need to reload the application, then all the other state is gone. And then I tell you, iframes, I don't care about your reload state or whatnot. I just place another iframe in your application, and there I have my new browsing context in your origin, and the service workers will not be registered anymore in this iframe. The main point here is, so I like JavaScript in general. I like TypeScript. So JavaScript isn't that bad, to be honest. I like TypeScript. TypeScript, not JavaScript, basically. But the thing is, like, it's really hard to protect ourselves from JavaScript with JavaScript. It's not so easy, actually. And content security policy, HTTP security header, I can't recommend this enough. Basically, don't use XSS protection anymore. If you heard it, forget it already. Don't use it anymore, please, please, please. So the thing is, like, you can't protect your tokens in a front-end application. You can't. It's the truth. I know that like things like Osiro and whatnot, they're doing such a good job to protect your tokens, but as we saw, I can just get another token on my own. Yes, XSS prevention is the first line of defense. You definitely need to make sure, and Angular provides so many good stuff about that. Just in version 19, we got an auto CSP feature, which basically auto-in-places the content security policy in your Angular app, which is so great. No other framework does it, and that's why I'm so in love with Angular as well from a security perspective. But I want to tell you, and like kind of a second line of defense, like not storing your tokens in the front end, but having something like a backend for front end pattern. A backend for front end pattern means basically that you have 4 parties in this whole communication channel. So you have your front end, and you have your identity or auth provider, and you have your external API you want to fetch data from. And now you have a backend for front end basically. And when you log in, when you click on the front end login, you don't communicate directly to the auth provider. You're not allowed to get any token from the auth provider directly from your front end. You get the token from a backend by you log into this backend. This backend is doing the whole OIDC, OAuth flow, whatnot, with the identity provider, and it gets the token back. And now you have 2 possibilities what to do with the token. One is to store it basically in a database in the backend for frontend, and of course the backend is doing the whole refresh token rotation and whatnot, all the other security features that we can apply here, and we're sending to the frontend a cookie. Sometimes you also, some persons also store the token inside the cookie and places this in the front end. This has also some risks. For instance, of course, we have some cookie attributes like same-site strict and HTTP only that we cannot retrieve the token out of the cookie with JavaScript. But it's vulnerable to a CSRF attack actually, like when same site means subdomains are allowed, like when you run on kittycat.com and I have a subdomain takeover, which means kittycat.com, the cookie would also be sent to me since it's same site and not same origin, the same site strict. So it's still a little bit tricky. Then I would at least encrypt the token in your cookie if you want to store the token in the cookie, at least encrypt it. And the encryption key should be of course, stored in a backend database far away from the tokens itself or whatnot. So basically, all the things like when the frontend is now wanting some data, it requests the data to the backend for frontend. The backend for frontend retrieves the token either out of the cookie or out of the database and forwards the API call to the external API and adds it inside the authorization header. So there's nothing to do inside the external APIs. There's actually just two things you need to change. Of course, it's an extra layer, this backend for frontend, but don't give me that. Don't give me something like, oh, my architecture is exploding and it's so growing and whatnot. Everyone has proxies in between. And actually, you can have a minimalist backend for frontend just with an Nginx and an Nginx config, even without having so many business logic like coded or whatnot. So it's not that of a big deal to place in the backend for frontend, actually. And yeah, and then the API call goes back to the frontend. Yes, one thing we need to consider, the latency might be a little bit higher. We have another thing in between, but I mean, we're using proxies all along, so it's always like having a proxy and routing the load balancer, whatnot, and just having something in between that maybe gets the token and sets it to the API calls. It's not that of a big deal. It can add actually another layer of security. Since you could protect your APIs a bit better, you could whitelist the backend APIs in the backend for frontend. Like you could say, the front end, when there's a request coming from the front end, just API 1 or C is allowed to be called from the front end, since the front end is also not have direct calls to the backend API. So you can play around a little bit. You have a centralized point of truth when it comes to fetching your API. So the API protection is also a little bit better. I have 3 minutes left. No, good. But coming to the key takeaways, I'm already at the end. I'm already at the end. So I have some key takeaways. I know we all are the perfect front-end developers, definitely. We make everything right. We know exactly how to scan our code. We are aware of all the XSS vulnerabilities and whatnot. Did you, by the way, know, sorry, I'm doing also pen testing, and that's a really fun fact about process I just learned, which can also lead to an XSS attack. Did you know when you have you ever tried to nest diffs as far as possible? Like having maybe a nested level of over 350. Did you ever try that? Do you know what the most processors are doing then? Now I have to lie. I'm not exactly know of the number. I have to look it up again. But I guess if you have a nested level of 350 and now want to nest again the diff inside the diff, then the process applying this diff as a sister node of the root diff. Just like, so it's like, hey, what? Did I hear it right? What did she say? Yes. The next nested diff of the level 351 will become a sister node of the root diff. It's like, what? What happened? I mean, I didn't try it out on my own, and I have to look the concrete number. It could be also 380. Don't get me too much on the number, but there is a specific number where the browsers are putting this as a sister node, which is like, hey, cool, that's amazing. So I can easily maybe use that, and it's really easy actually. There's a huge research paper that you can read through. It's really amazing because browsers like to be browsers, and they're doing funny things. So you don't control all the things that could happen. Please remember that you can't really protect yourself from XSS. It's really hard. XSS is still there. And of course, XSS prevention is the first line of defense. If you never heard of the content security policy header before, tomorrow when we after the party and go home at 5 a.m. in the morning tonight, so maybe tomorrow check for the content security policy header and protect yourself from XSS as good as possible. and maybe consider backend for frontend pattern as a defense in depth, like a second line of defense. It brings further benefits, so you can maybe apply some more policies in this backend for frontend, like whitelisting the APIs and whatnot, and which gives you even more control and maybe getting some control back. That's all from my side. I hope I woke you up with all the scary scenarios. And of course, if you have any question, at the end there is a live Q&A, but I will be here the whole day, so just ask me whatever you want. And I really want to thank you so much, and thank you for the Orga team that I'm possible to kicking off this great conference. Thank you.